Okay. It's basically 8. So I'm going to go and start talking. While this opens. Okay, so we just did the second exam. We have exam 3, exam 4, and the final left. What we start today is chapter 10. Like we did chapter 2 with the sets, and then chapter 3 was logic. And then for some reason, they pretty much skipped a whole bunch of chapters. And they go to consumer math, which is like real world math. I've got 4 pages of notes and like a couple of little examples. And then I wrote down 4 problems. I didn't have any problems for 10.2, but I wrote down 4 problems from 10.1 that I wanted to do with y'all, and then that'll be it. But I personally think this is like, I don't want to say boring because it's math and I still love math, but it's definitely not as fun as sets or logic. The way we start the chapter 10, let me get these where they need to be. The first homework that we do, I believe it just says percents. And I'll do 10.1. I'll close out of this whiteboard. I'll open another one. I'll do 10.2. And then I'll open up the homework to do those few problems with y'all. I contemplated not having class today, but because it is 2 sections and it is still like 15 problems total, I thought it would be rude to like end up smushing it all together. So we're just going to go ahead and do it. I hear you, Peter. Whenever you hear the word percent, what percent means? Does anybody know? Per 100. You're not wrong, but like technically percent means like per 100, where in math per means divide, which would be you dividing by 100, which would be the part of a whole. So yes. What you'll see on the homework is it's kind of something worded like this. It says 8% is a ratio. Ratio means like a fraction of some number. We're actually going to write it as like X to 100. So again, you weren't wrong. Just percent is like per 100. Where per means divide. So you divide by 100. Whatever you're taking a percent of, you're going to divide it by 100, whatever number it is. And now literally we're fixing to go from fraction to a decimal, decimal to percent, percent to a decimal, and then start 10.2. Like that's pretty much it. That's why I'm like, hey, it's really not that much, but I didn't want to smush like 4 sections in one day on y'all. Okay, so the way this would look as far as like how we've written it so far would be like if we have some number and we divided it by 100, whatever number would be here, you would actually end up getting the percent. Dividing by 100 gives you 8%. This is going to be the chapter where this calculator will be our best friend. It really will be. I think it's like $20. I'm trying to figure out how to do all these buttons and like switch it to my stats in my algebra class as well. But I don't know what all it can do just now. But I know for a fact this right here is going to be something that we use often, especially whenever we start calculating like mortgages for homes. We'll just use the calculator and it'll be our best friend. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of examples. I don't even know positively if there's fraction to decimal on the homework, but we're going to go and do them because I only have 2 anyways. So it won't take too long to do these. If I'm not mistaken, there's 8 problems on 10.1 and then there's 8 problems, 8 or 9 on 10.2 or vice versa, but it's not going to be too hard. Okay, so if you were to see something that said like 67 divided by 100, you could just grab your calculator. And if you input 6, 7, and then the divide by 100, enter, it gives you your answer. If you do have your calculator with it, yeah, it gives you your answer as a decimal, which is 0.67. Technically, what happened there was you moved the decimal 2 times to the left. That's very, very, very hard for some reason for a lot of people to understand, which is why I would say use your calculator if you're bad at moving the decimal yourself. On your calculator, I know, Peter, you have yours. Do 67 divided by 100 and hit enter, Peter.
Yeah.
Do you see how you got 0.67? Do you see the button right above the enter where it looks like 2 arrows?
Yes.
If you push that, what does it do? Yeah, so that's gonna be a way that you could go from fraction to decimal, basically, like it just goes back and forth. It literally looks, it's right above enter, y'all, and it looks like this. It's a little button that has 2 arrows on it, and it literally will convert you back and forth between decimal and percent. And that's just something like moving forward, if you were to need to know how to do that, okay? Okay, and so I'm gonna do this example just to say one time what happens. Ooh. I don't know what I touched whenever you round things, because a lot of people are really, really like not very confident in rounding as well. Peter?
Never mind, I'm gonna let you. We can answer my question.
Okay. Okay, so say you were to see something that was like 6/13. That's not gonna be as simple as just moving the decimal because it is just a fraction. What you would do is just 6 divided by 13 and hit enter. If you notice, I have a decimal approximation that's got like 10 different numbers. I'm gonna write a few. Okay, I'm gonna write 0.4615. I notice in the homework, it tells me to round to 2 decimal places or to the hundredths place. When it says hundredths place, just think of like money, right? So if it wanted me to round to the hundredths place or to 2 decimal places, I'm gonna underline what I'm rounding if need be. Well, technically you round it regardless, but is it gonna stay the same or is it gonna go up? What you do is you look at the number directly next to it. And if you have 0 through 4, what it does, the one that's underlined is just gonna stay. And if you have the number 9 through 5 next to it, what you end up doing to the number that's underlined is you add 1 to it. So I noticed that what I'm gonna be rounding is the 6. I look at its neighbor, it's a 1. That means stays. So that means the 6 is gonna stay. Therefore, your final answer would be 0.46. Always pay attention to whatever the homework says in blue because it'll tell you to round. If it tells you to round somewhere and it doesn't make any sense, y'all just swipe up and be like, hey, I have a question. I actually want to do this other one because it's a similar example, but it results in a different type of rounding. Say we have 24 divided by 36, and I know for a fact that's not reduced. It just happened to be the one I grabbed. Okay, if we do 24 and we divide it by 36, what we're going to get is 0. And I notice it's like 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, and it continues forever. My calculator will truncate it or just like stop it at a certain point, and it ends in a 7. But on the homework, I noticed that it actually wants me to round to the hundredths place, which would be 2 decimal places. Personally, on my notes, I underline what it is I'm looking at, which is the second number. That's what I'm trying to see if I'm going to stay or if I'm going to add 1 to it. And it's the one right next to it. It is its neighbor that tells me. And because it is within right here, 5 to 9, what I actually do is I'm going to add 1 to the number that I've underlined. And so what I end up getting for my final answer is 0.67. And so that's just going from a fraction to a decimal. I'm going to write that right here. Okay, now let's go. I have one example for a decimal to a percent because really not too hard. Yeah, what was your question, Peter?
Is that all 10.1 covers? Is it going from that?
Yeah, there's
decimal?
there, and the thing is, when I noticed my notes, mine's kind of like the converting between back and forth, which is why I told you this is, and I hate to say it, but the boring math. But then I have on my sticky to look at problem 3, 4, 7, and 9. So those must be like kind of word problems that ask you to calculate something. And so instead of like writing out the whole entire problem, I'm going to show you on here and we'll put notes, or y'all can like for this problem, this is what you do. I think it's like your bill at some restaurants, like $57, and the tax is gonna be 6%. No, I think that might be 10.2. 10.1 is like, what is like 18% of $25. So it's like, how do you do that? You take the 25 and you multiply it times 0.18, and then you're gonna get $4.50, something like that. You know what I mean? Those are the problems that I wanted to do on there. So I didn't have to like write everything out. I just grabbed my notes and then noticed that there was a couple of examples that weren't on it. So that's why I wanted to open the homework. Okay, so now decimal to percent. The way we go from a decimal to a percent, here's this example right here. Say we had 0.0875, which is actually like the tax on things usually. Okay, what we do is there's multiple different ways. I say multiply by 100 in your calculator if you're going to forget to move the decimal yourself. The other option would literally be to move the decimal yourself. When we divide by 100, our decimal is actually going to move to the right twice. So if you didn't want to do it by hand, you could just grab your calculator. Okay, so those are your two options to go from a decimal into a percent. Multiply by 100 or move the decimal 2 times to the right. If I did it by hand, right, I would be like, that's my new decimal. So it would be like 8.75 because I created a percent. I would add the percent symbol. Or if I grabbed my calculator, I would do 0.0875 divided by 100 equals, just kidding, multiply. Why'd I divide? 0.0875 multiplied by 100 equals, and it's going to be 8.75 also in my calculator. And if I did say divide a second ago, I'm sorry. So whenever we do the problems where it's like you're trying to solve simple interest, or you have a mortgage, or you're trying to figure out how much you're going to owe a bank after you've borrowed money from them, usually they're going to give you the rate that you're paying in a percent. When we put in our calculator, what we do is we'll turn it into a decimal. Okay, so that's going to be going the other way. Okay, but then whenever you get your answer, it's going to be in this original way right here. And what they want it is to be turned into a percent. So there's a lot of like moving the decimal to the right and to the left. Okay, so if you're going from decimal to percent, multiply it by 100. And then similarly, if you're going from percent to decimal, you actually divide by 100. And I might actually go ahead and open up the homework now, just to go ahead and like have it all together. And then we could start 10.2. Okay, so if someone wants to tell me what these are, you're more than welcome to. We have 69.8%. And we wanted to turn this into a decimal, what would it be?
0.698.
And I'm gonna write the steps just so everybody has them. There's also, there might be like vocabulary type of words on the homework where to ask you, hey, what do you do? Right? Well, what you do is you drop the percent, right? So you're gonna lose the percent. Drop the percent sign. I don't know why I keep doing little stars, but I started it, so I'm gonna keep going. Divide by 100. And then the other option would be to move decimal 2 times to the left. And those are two different types of options. So asterisk is one, and then the little circle is another type. Okay, and so what you would end up doing is either doing this, putting a new decimal, and saying it's the 6 in the front, kind of moot. If you have it, you have it. If you don't, it's okay. The homework will take it and I'll take it. I'm really lazy. If I don't have to do something, I usually don't. So 0.698 is the exact same as 0.698. Okay, don't think that that changes anything. Okay, and then we have this right here as well. If we're gonna go and like put something on our note card, this would be something that we could do. If you go from a percent to a decimal, the way that you do that was to divide by 100. And then if you're gonna go from a decimal to a percent, the way we did that was to multiply by 100. Okay. Let me do this one example because it wasn't what I was talking to Peter about, and I want to show y'all like how you're supposed to figure it out because I know it's on the homework for sure. And then I think that might be one of the examples we do as well. Okay, so I'm literally just going to write homework example because it literally came straight from the homework. It's a type of problem that you will see. Okay, so if it was to ask you, what is 18% of $25? So we know how to like go from this to this and this to that. Like that's just kind of like the converting. I know that on the homework, it's going to ask us like, what is 18% of $25? So technically you're at a store and they're having an 18% sale, which is really awkward, right? Because it's a random number, but the item that you want to purchase is $25. If you want to know like how much money is being taken off of the sale price, we would need to do this. The math to figure that out is to take the 25 and to multiply it in your calculator. We're going to actually turn that percent into a decimal, which we've learned is moving like it's implied, y'all, that the decimal is right here, right at the end of the 18. So what we do is we move it 2 times to the left, which would end up giving us 0.18. Or you grab your calculator and you divide it by 100. That's how you go from percent to decimal. You get 0.18. If I do this math right here, I do 25 times 0.18 and I hit enter. What I get is that the amount of money that's coming off of whatever it is I want to buy is $4.50. And there's like a handful of those. It's probably the primarily stuff like that. And then the very, very last problem is a little bit more wordy, but that's going to be how you figure out like the percent of a whole. Okay. So we're going to take whatever they give us and then multiply it to it. What was it? Oh, did I make it go away? It's still here. What do you mean? Percent to decimal. Move your decimal 2 times to the left. Divide it by 100 here because I want to drink water anyways. That's pretty much it right there, Peter. Y'all should see though when you do your homework, 10.1 shouldn't be too crazy. Somebody tell me what this is. I'm literally just winging it right now. What is 36% of 78? Yep. And the way I do that is the 78 times 0.36 close equals 2808. What if it told me to round to the nearest whole dollar? Just 28. Yeah. Round to the nearest tenths, 28.1. Round to the nearest hundredths. Well, that it ended on the hundredths on my calculator, so it stays that. Okay, so pay attention to the like how it wants you to round and stuff. And then since I have the ability to, I'm going to go ahead and open the homework right now. I need to make it to where y'all can see me. See everything I'm doing right there. Because it is just kind of a simple little lesson. I must have seen something slightly different or really didn't want to like write out all the words, to be honest with you, with 3, 4, 7, and 9, because those are the ones I have picked out to do with y'all. Percents. A percent is a ratio of some number to 100. Like we wrote that in our notes, right? To change a decimal to percent, multiply the decimal by, and then add the percent sign, right? We wrote that in our notes just now. Okay, so this is problem 3. This is why I think I literally didn't want to like create my own circle graph with y'all and have you doing different things to it. So I was like, oh, we'll just open up the homework. Okay, so here is a circle graph. Okay, so this is what it's saying. And I usually don't really read the problems. You need to know the total amount and then you need to know whatever they're asking, but I'm gonna go ahead and read it. The graph shows the percent of employees who take time off during 1 year because of colds. A company has 7,230 employees. Use the graph to find the number of them who miss because of cold for 1 to 2 days a week. Okay, so specifically, I care about the ones who missed for 1 to 2 days a week. If I look at this graph right here, I notice that the 1 to 2 days a week is the very first number that they give me, or the very first like category, and it's 24% of 7,230. So just like the examples I did, like what's 36% of $78 or whatever, right? It's the exact same thing, but they're putting words behind it. So if 24% of people missed 1 to 2 days because of a cold, and they want me to figure out how many people missed, what I do is I'm going to do 7,230 times 0.24, right? Because in the circle graph, they're giving it to me in a percent. I need to have it as a decimal. And then I hit enter and I get 1735.2. It tells me right here to simplify my answer and round to the nearest whole number, which would be 1735. So do you see how it's literally like the example 1 and example 2 we did, but it's just like behind a whole example and it's giving you a circle graph to look at, but it's still what is 24% of this total, okay? And then you hit enter and then it'll say, great job. Okay, this one, it's kind of worded differently. And instead of giving you a percent, it's giving you a total amount of people. I think it's like students and stuff. It says, I know it's little, but let me read it. It says students at a high school were polled to determine the type of music they preferred. There were 1,940 students who completed the poll. Their responses are represented in a circle graph. What percent of students preferred rap music? Okay, when it asked how many, like what the total was, that's when we took the total amount of employees, we multiplied it to the percent, right? To figure out how many existed or what 24% of that total was. When it asked me what percent, not the total, what it's going to do in this circle graph is it actually gives you all of the different amount of votes that these students gave you. It looks as if 905 prefer rap. So it's 905 out of the total, which was 1940, thank you. Which, so divide it by 1940 and you end up getting, okay, so this one right here, I'm going to show y'all. The other one, the one we just did, problem 3, is just like these examples. Okay, so we kind of have that, right? So this is like example number 3 on the homework. Okay, so for example number 4 on the homework, it shows me that the total students was 1940. Okay, and the ones who preferred rap, there was 905 students. The math to figure out the total, I'm sorry, the percent of students that preferred rap over any other type of genre is to take the amount of students that preferred rap, divide it by the total amount of students that were polled. And whenever you do this, you're going to end up getting 0.46649, and it continues. I always write about 5 numbers, just so like my rounding is like as close to being correct as possible. Whenever I look at the homework, I'm going to switch real quick. It says about blank percent of the students who completed the poll preferred rap music, round to 1 decimal place. I'm just trying to figure out what button to push. Yep. So round to 1 decimal place. No. Yeah, no. 1 decimal place, y'all. That's this. That's the 4. And where do I look is right here. So it's going to end up being 0.5. If it said 2, then you would be right. But it said round to 1 decimal place. And so I'm rounding my 4. I look at my 6 because it's between 5 and 9. That's whenever I add 1. No, y'all, we can't round it right now. It's still, what form is that in? I totally went down a rabbit hole because going back and forth, I'm going to lose my mind. Is that in a percent form or is that in a decimal form? So what do I need to do first? Yes. So first and foremost, let's turn this decimal into a percent. And by doing that, how would I do that? 0.46649 into, there's a lag, into a percent is grabbing your decimal and moving it 2 times to the right. 2 times to the right, just like that. And what that ends up resulting in is what? 46.649. We don't want to add the percent just yet, because now here, once I've moved my decimal and it's actually in a percent form, now I can round it. Now it tells me to round it 1 decimal place, which would be here. I look here. The rounding results in 46.6, and now you add the percent. Sorry about that, y'all. I could have sworn you said probably that. I really don't know. I can't think and talk and write and walk and perform like a circus animal. I'm just kidding. So 46.6. Okay, so and the reason why is because I took the total amount of students and I divided it by the whole. It gives me that answer as a decimal in my calculator. I need to turn it into a percent form and then round it. Don't round it before you move your decimal, is basically what I need to explain. Okay, so what is 14% of $25? We did one like that. 7% of 30, we did one like that. I got 7 and 9 on here. Okay, I like these personally, but I know that it's wordy. Can I maybe screenshot this and then write on it? Let me see. Full screen. No, it's kind of not. Yeah, that doesn't work. Now I don't know how to get out of here. That did not work. Can I write on here? Nope. Okay, so y'all write this down. Okay, you don't have to write everything. We're gonna write specific things, then I'll go to the other page. So just listen though. It says, according to the original tipping page, www.tipping.org, it is appropriate to tip waiters and waitresses 15 to 20%. That must be a really old website, because I still think that's way too low, of the pre-tax restaurant bill. The Leesburg's diner cost $48.28 before tax. Okay. So dinner, $48 and what? What did you say? I didn't hear you, Abby. 48.25. Okay, they say that the tax is 5%. Okay, so that's all they tell me right now. And now for A, B, and C, for A, it says, what is the tax on the Leesburg's diner? Don't put 5%. It wants you to actually calculate what is 5% of 48.25. Okay, so for part A, it wants to know what is the tax. Okay, well, what we have to do is we're going to take the amount of your dinner and then we're going to multiply it. You don't multiply it by 5. We're going to multiply it in a decimal form in our calculator. So if I change this into a decimal, what this changes to, I would move the decimal 2 times to the left, or I would divide it by 100 and I get 0.05. This is the decimal version or form of 5%. If you multiply it by 5, you're literally paying way too much for tax. If you multiply it by 0.5, you'd be multiplying it by 50%. So make sure that you understand how to move that decimal, because it will change your whole entire answer. So I'm going to multiply this by 0.05. And then I grab my calculator and turn it on. Clear, clear, clear. 48. Thank you. What? So the tax on your dinner is $2.41. And that's all it wants, is just what the tax amount is right here. And it tells you excellent. Then it says the tip is, because in B it says if the Lees, whatever these people's names are, if the Goldbergs decide to tip 19% of the pre-tax. I thought of that show. I didn't want to go there. So whenever we do B and it wants the tip, what did it say? We tipped 19%. Okay, so the tip is 19% of the 48.25. And we know how to do that, right? Because we're going to take the amount of our bill and we're going to multiply it by 19, right? No, thank you. 0.19. Move that decimal or it ends up being an insane amount. And what does it end up being for our tip? What is it? 9.16? So $9.16 is how much you just made for bringing food to them. Just kidding. What did you do? What did you do? It said we're wrong. Oh, you should have said something quickly. Abby's like, I'm waiting until you get it wrong. And then I'll tell you, I entered 18, not 16. You were right, Peter. No. Okay. 48 times 0.19. It's 9.17. You round that 6 because of the 7 after it. Do you see it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Good job. Okay, so let me go back to here. And it actually was 9.1675. So if I round to the hundredths, you always do when it's money. Okay, so this is what I have, 9.1675. This is what I get for their tip. You obviously don't put that in there because we don't deal with money like that, right? So what we would do is we need to round it to the hundredths always because that's how we count our money. This is what I would round. This is where I look. That 7 tells me that I need to add 1, which is why their tip is $9.17. And so then it's going to tell you, great job. And then for part 3, it says the total cost is. So what we do for the total cost is you're going to take the amount of your dinner, the amount of the tax, and the amount of the tip, and you just add them all together. Okay, so total. You're going to add all of the stuff that we have. That looked weird.
I got it. Have you come across?
I haven't. But if so, that would be like the little butterfly thing where you do this times 100 and divide it by the, and I don't remember doing that this morning in my head when I was looking at the homework, so it probably isn't on here. If we take 48.25 and then we add to it that tip, which was 9.17, and what was the tax, 2.41? It cost us how much for our meal? And because I added multiple things that all were rounded to the hundredths place, like my answer is going to be like, there shouldn't be any rounding there. Whenever you go to add all these together, 59.83 should be the answer if Peter did it correctly. I'm sweating. You probably do. Like we could switch. 59.83. Did it do it right? Oi. Okay. There's my keyboard. 59.83. Nice work. So there's a problem on there. Obviously, your bill is going to cost different. I think the tax or the tip should still be like 19, but the tax is going to fluctuate between 4, 5, 6, 7%, something like that. And then the other problem I wanted to do with y'all was problem 9. Okay, so, and this is the last problem. So there's only 9 problems on 10.1. It says a store advertises a 35% discount on a $768 computer system. Find the sale price. So 35,768. Floppy because there's a delay. So it says that the store is offering a 35% discount on this amount. It wants to know the sale price. So if you just multiply those together the way we did at the beginning, what you're going to end up getting is the amount of money that they're taking off of this surround sound or whatever it was that they said. But what they want you to do is actually do the subtraction to take it off of the original price to know what the sale price is. So it's still the same that we did a second ago. We're gonna figure out what 35% of 768 is. When you say of in math, like you open parentheses, so you could write it kind of a different way than we did earlier. I know that I need this to be converted into a decimal, which would be 0.35. And if I did 0.35 or 35% of 768, that's the same thing that we wrote earlier. And if I do this, what do I get? What's 35% of 768? 268.8. Okay, that's how much money they've taken off of this total price that it used to be, the original price. So now what we do is we're going to take the original price and we need to subtract what they are discounting it. And if we do that, what do we get? Okay, that's the actual sale price. That's what goes right here. So 499.20. A lot of people will put the 268.8, and that would actually be what, 65% off? Because it would be like flipped in a way, you know what I mean? It would be the other amount. So 499.20. So do the same thing we did, figure out what the percent is of that, and then subtract it. And I'm gonna do it without the zero at the end, because I don't think it matters, because it really doesn't. Even though it's telling you to round to the nearest cent, I was curious. Okay, so if you have questions about 10.1, y'all just let me know, but that's technically it. Let me get out of here. And let's do 10.2, and then y'all can start your spring break. And I can go take a nap in my office. Just kidding, not kidding. Totally not kidding. Okay, 10.2. So this is actually a little bit more of like the consumer math and just being in the real world and needing loans type of like part of this chapter, whereas 10.1 is literally just kind of moving decimals around, just making sure that you understand how to do that. Because moving forward, if you don't, you'll tell me the interest on a loan that was $100 is like $10,000 or something crazy like that. I know that people always say that you need to make sure your answer makes sense, but if you don't know what you're doing, any answer makes sense. So it's better to really know what you're doing and not doubt it. There's 10.1 and 10.2 is open, due on Sunday, just like always. And then whenever we come back, that's when we'll do 10.3, 10.4, 10.5, and then we'll take the fourth exam. I think we have a review date, but I'm not sure. Oh, it's right here. After we get done, I'll give you the calendar. We have 5 exams, 4 chapter exams and a final. So we've done 2. We can look at it whenever. I just don't want to get up right now. Okay, we have like a whole page of things to write for definitions, and then we're going to do examples. And technically, I really only have 4 examples. Is that it? 5 examples. Okay. We have enough time, but I unplugged this. This is wet on my hand. Okay, so personal loans and simple interest. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to define, which will really help y'all if they ask you these questions on my math lab, it's going to be principal. Principal is the amount of credit extended. This delay is killing me. It's going to switch between black and purple. We have security, which is going to be collateral. The borrower. Sorry, I didn't know how to spell that for a second. May, bless you, you're welcome. May pledge to ensure payment. We have a cosigner, also known as mom and dad, which is another person who ensures repayment interest which is money to be paid to use, it sounds weird, but to use lender's money. You have to pay money to have money. Well, at least you have to pay money to borrow money. That's for sure, no matter what, always. If you ask somebody to loan you $100 and you're gonna pay them back next week, you're probably gonna give them $120, basically because like they were willing to loan you the money. And it gives them a reason to loan it to you in a way. Okay. And then what this whole kind of like 10.2 section and homework is on is simple interest. Okay, so simple interest is based on the entire amount of the loan for the total period of the loan. Based on the entire amount of the loan for the total period of the loan. Fancy way of saying total period of the loan. It's based off of how much you borrow and how long you borrow it, basically. Okay. You're gonna pay back that friend $20 if you have it for a week or 2 weeks, but you're gonna be paying them back a whole other 100 if you borrow that money for like 6 months or a year, right? Because like it's gonna basically just kind of keep building up. It constantly adds up. Okay, so we do have, and y'all, whenever we do come back, I have a whole thing that you can use on the exam. We'll actually add a few things to it because like every now and then problems remind me of something else, or maybe I'll try to retype it for you. But it's going to be a whole page of nothing but formulas that you can use whenever you do your exam. And that's why this comes in handy. If you don't have this, you will not be able to do the third exam, like just flat out. Okay. This is our first formula that we're going to see in this chapter 10, which is simple interest. I can't spell. This delay is killing me. Interest. Okay. It is interest equals principal times rate times time. Obviously, we're in math class and you know how lazy I am, so we're going to shorten that to interest equals principal times rate times time. Right? That is a simple interest formula. Okay, now very important here, our rate in our formula is as a decimal, so rate as decimal. In the problems, they don't give it to you as a decimal, they give it to you as a percent, which is why you need to know you always move that thing 2 times to the left. You get your answer, and if you're answering in rate, you need to then move it back to the right. Okay, so there's a lot of moving things around. Our time is in days, months, or years. They do something kind of funny in a way. It's usually called a banker's rule. They don't tell you that, but this is what they do. They assume, okay, so this is like a little note on our time. Okay, they assume that each month is 30 days. I'm sure that this helps like with their math and their numbers and everything that they do to calculate things. But instead of being like some months have 28, some months have 31, each calendar bank month has 30 days, which results in each year being, oh man, 360 days. Because there's 12 months in a year. If you do 12 times 30, you get 360. Okay, so you'll see on the homework where it says assume 360 days in a year. This is why. Okay, that's just what they do. Whenever you start calculating things, you use like the banker's rule, which is that all months have 30 days, all years have 360 days total. Okay, so I've got the 5 examples to do with you. And then we can't open up the homework. I wrote 10.2, looking through the homework, and there wasn't anything that jumped out at me like I needed to show y'all, but time-wise, I could open it up and just see. So y'all know what to do. Okay, so this is where I'm going. I'm gonna create like a little table. This is the work down here, but I'm gonna write principal, rate, time, and interest. And we're gonna do like A, B, C, D. And it's some things are gonna be filled in, some aren't. And the goal is for your answer, you're gonna fill in the blank. So it's like, what are they asking you for? And this is easier than us writing it every single time, like you will see on the homework. There's some problems want you to solve for principal, some problems want you to solve for rate, some problems want you to solve for time. Actually, let me show you all the variations real quick. Okay, so this is the formula variations. Because if not, you're going to be doing algebra in this class, and there's no reason for that because this is not algebra. Do you know how we have the I equals P R T, right? That's to solve for what? Simple interest, right? Because it's literally equal to that one variable by itself. So this is to solve. This solves interest. And interest is in money. So whatever you figure out, you should be like good, you round to the nearest hundredths place, right? Now let's say that something wanted you to actually solve for principal. What I would need to do is, and y'all don't write this, but algebraically speaking, if I wanted to solve for principal, wouldn't I have to divide both sides by R and T? Do you see what I'm saying? And this is like the abstract formulas that I do in algebra, and no one ever understands them, but you're just solving for different variables. So I don't have to write that because I'm actually just going to give it to you the way it is, but y'all just need to know, like, I'm moving things around, okay? If we wanted to solve for principal, that ends up happening because I have my interest being divided by my rate and my time, okay? This solves principal. Principal, also money, whatever you end up getting. Y'all just have to probably deal with my, no, I can't. You would probably just have to round to the hundredth place because it's money. Okay, so what else could we solve for? We could solve for rate. And I know it's weird, I's capital, P's capital. On the homework, I might not be capital. This is just how I've always done it, okay? Rate, though, I've never made it a big R because later that actually ends up being something to do with like an annuity or something. Okay, so with simple interest, it is a little R, okay? If we solve for rate, that would be our interest being divided by principal and time. And if you notice, each of the variations all have the interest and then divided by. Okay, this solves for rate. And with the rate, we're going to have a percent. We're going to change it into a decimal. We're going to put it in our calculator. Our answer is going to be in a decimal. Here, we would have to change it back to a percent to actually answer it, okay? And then the last one would be for us to solve for time, which would be our delay, our interest divided by principal and rate. Okay, so usually people just kind of assume that you would know how to do that, or you would plug things in and move it yourself, right? But then again, that's you doing algebra. Let's just have these different variations. Whatever the homework tells you to solve for, use those variations. Okay, this solves for time. Time shouldn't be any type of like certain rounding or this or that, but if you run into something, just tell me. Okay, so y'all have those. Now we can actually calculate the simple interest, the rate, the time, or the principal, depending on what it is that they want us to solve for. Okay, I have to cover this up, but y'all have it on your page. Okay, so this is how I'm gonna do this table. Okay, I'm gonna write principal. And then we're gonna do rate, time, interest. And again, on the homework, these are all individual problems. Okay, this though is very, very almost copy and paste as much as I can what you'll see on the exam. Okay, it's like a table and you'll notice blanks. Whatever the blank is, that's what you're solving for. Okay. Okay. So for A, okay, what I have here is I have $240 principal, my rate, and I'm going to kind of write the rate a little scooted over to the left because I know we did change it into a decimal and I want room for that, is 8.75%. My time is 6.25 years. And then I have my blank on my interest. So this problem I'm solving for interest, okay? Now for the next problem, for B, my principal is $1,375. My rate is 3.75%. I have a blank on my time, and my interest is $12.89. Y'all see what I'm doing now? Now we're gonna do another one. The blank's just gonna move. Now we're fixing to do rate, and then we'll do principal last. For C, I have $12.75 total principal. A blank on my rate, 3 years. And the interest is $68.85. And then D, I have a blank. Bless you. You're welcome. I have a blank on my principal and 6% interest for, why did I write it like that? Okay, so 6 months. And the interest was $72. Really? $72. Now let's do the actual work. I'm gonna have to zoom out, make my marker bigger. Oh. Okay, so for A, I almost made it too big. I'm gonna use that formula that I have. I'm trying to make it to where I can be zoomed out, but my marker not be like super thin or too bad. My glasses are fogging, I'm so hot. Okay, for A, I noticed that it's having me solve for interest, which is the I equals P R T, which is saying my interest is going to equal the principal, which is just 240, and then multiply it times my rate. My rate as a decimal would be 0.0875. I'm like literally trying to smush that in there. Y'all write it better than I do on your notes. 0.0875, because I moved it 2 times to the left. So in my calculator, I always just open parentheses, or you could do multiply by. When I write it though, I do use parentheses, because if not, the dot next to a decimal ends up blurring, and then sometimes you'll forget the decimal and then everything's just broken. And then if I multiply it by my time, because that is in years, it looks really weird right now. All I need to do is just 6.25. Just like that is fine. And if you get your calculator, I do 240, open 0.0875, close, open 6.25. And I get a syntax error because I was in an exponent that whole time. Got it. I get 131 and 25 cents. Whoever has a calculator, y'all can check me. I have the answers, but Okay, because it is interest, it means it is money. And if you did get anything after the 5, just know you would need to round it to the hundredths place.
Oh,
You all good with that? For why?
yes.
Okay. Does everyone have that written? Is that, because I want to kind of leave what I have up here and I just want to like erase the work I just did to then move to B. So I don't have to keep zooming out and moving away. Yeah. I'll wait for you, Peter. Just tell me when. Having those variations should help y'all. This ice. Okay, B, oh, what was it, 131.25? Sorry, because I didn't actually put it here and I need to. 131.25. Okay, so for B, I noticed that it's actually asking me to solve for time. And the way I would do that is time equals interest. Divided by principal times rate. I'm getting really mad about this delay. Okay, so time, I don't know. That's why it's by itself on the left-hand side. I'm gonna start with my fraction bar. My interest on B is 13.75. My rate and my principal. Oh, y'all, I said I put principal there. I saw it after I said it because I was like, hold on, wait, what? My interest is $12.89. Yeah, right. $12.89 divided by my principal and my rate. My principal is 13.75, which is in the denominator. And then it's going to be multiplied to my rate, which is actually 0.0375 because I moved the decimal 2 times to my left. I'm getting so mad. Okay, so you grab your calculator. And y'all, I mean, having it sooner rather than later would be best because I've talked about every single button to push while you're doing it. And then I just believe you know where it is. Okay. So Peter, if you look at the number 7, you go 3 buttons up above that. Do you see N over D?
Number 7, 1, 2, 3, what, N over D,
That's numerator over denominator. Hit it.
got it.
Okay, that creates that actual fraction for you so that the calculator isn't relying on you to do parentheses in appropriate places in order for them to do PEMDAS in an appropriate way, right? Here I have an actual fraction and it says N over D, it's 3 buttons above 7. So I'm going to do 12.89. Use your cursor on the top right to go down. Now I'm in the denominator and I do 1375. I open my parentheses. If you did it, the like multiplicative symbol or like the X, that's fine. But I open my parentheses, 0.0375. Technically, it's in the denominator. You don't have to close it, but close it for continuity if you want to. Hit enter. What I end up getting was, oh, this problem sucks. Sorry. I end up getting 0.24999, right? I'm going to write this. I'm going to show y'all. I'm hoping there's not one like this annoying, but 0.24999. I'm going to write a few numbers, 8. Okay, this is time. We don't know time like 0.24, right? So what I would need to do is actually multiply it by 12, okay? And then after I get that answer, that actually ends up being your months because this is saying that this is basically 25% of a year, right? But keep it in this decimal form, multiply by 12. If I multiply this by 12, what do you end up getting? 2 point, and then you would round, right? This is technically like my time, but what we would do is round it to 3. So it would be 3 months. My goal is always to take y'all's exams before I give them to you, and I would avoid something that made y'all go and do this much work. It should literally just be simple interest, like simple little,
That'd be 3 years.
no,
If we multiply by 12.
so it's, okay, you see how it's in a decimal form? What you could do is turn that decimal into a percent, because technically this is like 25% of a year, which is why instead of turning it into a percent and then doing 12 times 0.25, you get 3. You get 3. If you do what's 25% of 12 months, it's 3 months. But instead, just leave it as a decimal, multiply it by 12 and then round. Okay. I don't even think, I'm hoping that you don't even see a problem like this on your homework, but that would end up being your answer. It would be 3 months. I'm sorry for that one sucking. That earlier when I was like, why do I have my answer written like that? That was why. It's 3 months or 90 days would be how you could answer that one. Okay. Can I delete it? For C, what are we finding?
Right.
Yes. Y'all. So whenever you find the rate, what you do is R equals I divided by P times T. Y'all just think I'm crazy, but I keep pushing buttons and nothing's happening. And it does it so randomly, like I don't know why. Okay, what color is C? C. Right? Tristan, we turn that down? Walker. I saw you looking down, so I assumed it was you, Tristan. It's okay. I have like really, really good ears. Rate equals interest over principal times time. Okay. So let's do it. So my rate is going to be equal to, in part C, my interest is 68.85. And my principal is 1275 times my time, which is 3. Okay, so my rate is equal to, you get your calculator, hit the N over D button, 68.85, go down, do 1275, open 3, close, enter. Okay, what I got, what did you get, Peter? Yes. 0.018, but this is rate. So what do I need to do? Because that's a decimal. I need to convert to a percent, which we know what to do there. You just move the decimal 2 times to the right. So my rate is 1.8. %.
Did you just do the 2 circles 8?
I-
Can I just watch you do that?
Yes, and that's actually how I do it. Like whenever I write it, I think I have 6 8s in my phone number, and I love doing like circle, 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 circle. 5 8s in my phone number. That's like I love writing my phone number. So yeah, so it's 1.8%. If it's rate, just make sure you remember to like convert it back. I like have no rhyme or reason to the colors I'm using, if y'all couldn't tell. Whenever I put in the answer into the blanks, they are definitely not for a certain reason. I don't know if I should blame Microsoft or the school or the internet or what. Okay, here I'm solving for principal. So principal is equal to our interest divided by our rate and our time. My rate is what? 0.06. A lot of people will just do 0.6. So make sure like this is what it's showing you. It's implied that there's a decimal right here. If I move it 2 times to the left, that's 1, 2, new decimal, don't have this one, add your 0.06. You do 0.6, you actually are using a rate of 60%. Okay, so principal is equal to interest is $72. There's no change. Y'all don't have to do the 0.00. If there's change, obviously put it, but I can just get away with doing 72 because it's the same thing. And then divided by my rate is 0.06 times 6 months. So, 6 months, right? If I'm gonna actually keep this in years, it would be 6 months out of a year, which would be like 1/2, right? So if you want to though, personally, I'm wondering how I ended up doing it. Where is my D? There's D. I did 0.5 because it is a half, but if y'all wanted to use that N over D button, it would be like 6 out of 12 months. You could do that, or you could be like 6 months is what? 6 months out of 12 months is, and you would see the decimal in your calculator and you'd see 0.5. Okay, if that makes sense. If not, if you never really know what the the decimal is inside of a little formula, you can just use that N over D button. I'm going to do 0.5 because I know 6 months is half of a year. I swear I better handwriting than this. What's my principal, y'all? Exactly on the dot. Does that make sense? Okay. The alternative was like I equals, no, I'm sorry. How would it be? It would be like 72 equals P times 0.06 times 0.5, and then me trying to explain to y'all that you've got to divide everything by both of those. You know what I mean? Like that's why I went ahead and showed y'all the different variation to solve for one more for what it's asking for. Got one more example, maybe. Hold on. Let me open up the homework. Let's do that. There's like 10 minutes left. Let me see what y'all are gonna see. And then we will be done. Okay. Personal, oh, it says personal loans and simple interest. I think we just called it simple interest, but it's fine. Okay, so there are 8 problems on the homework. I'm trying to get it to open. The money your bank, another institution is willing to lend you or extend credit is called, there should be principal. Next question. The money a borrower pays to use it would be the interest. And then like right here, this is how the problems look. So it says determine the simple interest, and you'll read where it says like that it's an annual rate, which just means it's yearly, which is why the years do matter. Assume 360 days in a year. I'm trying to solve for interest, so it'd be 380 open, 0.0325 close, open, 5.75 enter, 71.0125. So 71.01. It's not going to let me do anything. It kind of freezes when I start zooming into it and stuff. So, but does that make sense? We would. P times R times T.
Yeah. Google, so
Well, yeah, sorry for the computer. It won't let me actually enter it in, but I just use the formula. That would be like that. This one would be example A.
Like 380 times 0.5 times.
No. 380 times 0.0325, right? Because they gave me that as a percent. I can zoom in since it's not going to let me. It's, no, it's 3.25%. So we would, yep, 0.0325. It won't even let me click to the next. So let me close out of this. I don't think I'll be able to actually zoom in, to be honest with you. Okay, so enter it in the way that you see it, but with whatever variation of the formula you need. This one wants to know what the interest is. So again, but this one is, hey, this one is in 90 days. So you would do 90 divided by 360, because I told y'all the 360 days in a year. And if it's in like units of measurement of days, you would divide by the total number of days. Just like earlier when it said months, we divided by that there was 12 months in a year. You know what I mean? So kind of do that division to figure out that decimal. Yeah.
I got 7.
Yep.
And then you don't move that decimal at all.
No, because that it's interest. So our answer solved it as money. The rate is the one that we have to move back. Okay, so this one right here, you're solving for interest again. Pay attention to how time is shown to you, because that there's a little fraction that you'd have to figure out what that decimal is. For rate, move your, nope, nothing gets moved here. You would use the variation that we have, but your answer, let me see. So interest is N over D 3, go down. Nope, that interest is not that. That was time. 95.85, go down. 1775 open times 3. I get 0.018. That's as a decimal. So what I would do is I would actually do 1.8. And I change it to a percent, or in your calculator, what you could do whenever you have your answer is multiply it by 100, which is what we did in 10.1, going from decimal to percent. You know what I mean? So there's multiple different like calculator tricks that you could use there. This one right here wants to know principal. Your answer would be in money. You just round it to the nearest hundredths. Time. I don't see them doing one that's like insane crazy that we had to do when it was like, I don't know, let me see. Time is IPR. So I is 143.28, principal 955, open 0.025, close 6.00125656, whatever, right? But I had that whole number, right? Before it was like a tiny decimal or like a small number, and we had to figure out what percent of a year that was. This one actually does say 6 as the whole number. And so you just round it to that because it's 6.00. So it's not going to give y'all one like we did. Okay, this one right here, a man uses a loan program for small businesses to obtain a loan to help expand his vending machine business. The man borrows $2,400. You borrow money, that's your principal, right? For 3 years, that's your time. So you're writing on your piece of paper, P equals this, T equals that. You're setting it up the same way they've been doing all the other problems. And it says with simple interest rate of 1.7%. Whenever you write your R, go ahead and move it. So it's 0.017, right? Determine the amount of money the man must repay after 3 years. So this one right here, it doesn't just want the simple interest. It wants at the maturity of your loan in 3 years. You're not just going to pay them back the amount of money you owe them in interest. What are you going to pay them back? Everything. You're going to pay them back what you borrowed and the interest. Okay. So this one right here, I'm solving for the interest. So it's P times R, which is 0.017, times T, which is 3, $1,224. In 3 years, you don't go and say, here's $1,200, right? I need to actually add that to the 24. I just keep hearing it's like a whistle every time you whisper. 25224. So add it to what he borrowed at the beginning of the loan. That's how that problem is. It's very similar to the other one. And then that right there is it for 10.1 and 10.2. Whenever we come back, we'll do mortgages and buying diamond rings and houses and cars and all kinds of fun stuff. Bye, y'all. I'll literally see you on like